Hello, and thank you everyone for joining us today during these very interesting times of COVID. Hope everyone is home and safe and staying healthy. We do find ourselves in meetings where our customers are asking us how SWK is doing, and so I really want to report, and I'm happy to share that SWK is in a great place. As we are a technology company, we are positioned to be able to keep the same service you expect and deserve as you would have outside of these rare circumstances, and we really appreciate you being here with us today, so thank you. My name is Jen Cummings, and I believe I know most of you on the call today. We have a lot of listeners, so thank you. And as most of you know, I am hired to be a customer advocate for our Acumatica customers and ensure that we have strong communication and success between our teams, and that I make sure that our customers get what they need. And our Acumatica customers need to stay informed about our Acumatica upgrades and how to get the most out of your Acumatica solution. So I'm very pleased to introduce my colleagues with me today. I've got Jeb Budeke, who is our Acumatica Practice Manager, and he's going to share some team updates as we are expanding. And he's also going to talk about the upgrade process for Acumatica. With me also is Jeremy Patoka, and he is going to share the features and functionalities of the latest release of Acumatica 2020 R1. So as many of you know, Acumatica does 2 major releases a year. I also have Johnny Girardi with us today from Dataself, and he is here to talk about how to advance analytics for Acumatica. And I also have Jolene Schaefer on the line with us, our marketing coordinator, and she's going to help us with questions at the end. So with that, a couple house cleaning items around questions and a couple other things. So before we get started, I just want to let you know that everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise down. However, please submit any questions you have throughout the webinar. And to submit a question, look for the question section in your GoToWebinar and put them in there, and we'll answer all the questions at the end of the presentation. We are also recording this presentation, and it will be distributed to all attendees as well as that are here with us today, and all of those who registered and maybe could not end up to make it. And then clicking over to the next slide, while I remember, we've got 2 upcoming webinars that I want to share really quickly for specifically for our Acumatica customers only. So this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we've got a webinar by our partner Altec. They're a document management system solution, and they are certified and natively built with Acumatica. So please join us if you care for any of that. We also have a webinar on Thursday, April 30th, by our very own SWK team. And this webinar is specific to demonstrating Acumatica's project management suite. You'll see it says for construction. We do also have customers that are not in construction that can leverage this project management functionality. So at the end of the presentation, most of you have my email address. I'll reshare it again. And if you're interested in either of those, please reach out to me and I'll get you set up. So with that, I'd love to pass it to Jeb Budeke. Jeb.
All right, thanks, Sean. So the first thing that we'll talk about here today relative to the practice is our growing team. So in the past few months, we've added 3 new team members. Some of you have worked with. We have Joe Flesh, who's a project manager. He has many years of experience managing projects both with and outside of ERP. So he's been a great addition. We also have Shay Schutte and Patrick Colgan, who are new consultants to our Acumatica team. So we're happy to have those guys on board. Again, many of you have probably worked with them already, but if you haven't already, then you will meet those guys in the future. So they've all been great additions to our team. All right, so I've got a handful of things that Jean already mentioned that I want to talk about today. They're largely process and procedure, but they are questions that we get asked repeatedly, so I wanted to touch on these. For the people that were here on the webinar, I guess last quarter or maybe a couple quarters ago, we talked about this, but I still want to reiterate the upgrade process. What we're talking about is why and when to upgrade Acumatica. As we know, Acumatica has two major releases a year, an R1 and an R2, typically in the spring and the fall. And then each major release is supported for 20 to 24 months after that release. So what that means is that they're asking everyone to upgrade within a couple of years. We like companies to get into a rhythm, maybe every 12 to 18 months, but certainly you need to plan to put that in your life cycle of the product that you're definitely going to upgrade within a couple of years. There's a few reasons why to do that. The first one is just simply the technology benefits of Acumatica. It's a quick growing product. They add a ton of benefits and functionality into each release. And so since you're paying for it, it just frankly makes sense to take advantage of those as often as you can. Additionally, if you're a SaaS customer, they will actually charge a premium penalty fee if you don't upgrade before your version expires. So we don't see that a lot, and we monitor that for you and let you know if those things are coming up. But it is something to keep in mind, and just another reason to upgrade periodically. Yeah, so again, we'd like to get you guys in a rhythm. So whatever it is, every year, every 18 months, kind of put that on your roadmap for how you're going to manage your product. And then keep in mind, when we do start an upgrade, you guys have a 90-day sandbox for us to set that up and for you to use. At no charge from Acumatica. On the next slide, we see that these are the recent versions of Acumatica. 2020 R1 was just released in the past few weeks. And with that, 2018 R2 would normally be expiring in the next month or two. However, as a delay caused by the COVID-19 situation, Acumatica has extended that deadline. So for anybody that's on 2018 R2, you do have a little bit more of a grace period to upgrade that product. But if you are on 2018 R2, please get in touch with us so we can start the scheduling and the planning of that so that we can get you upgraded before that time frame. And then if you're on 2018 R1 or earlier, that product is no longer officially supported by Acumatica. However, SWK will work with you as best we can to resolve any issues and support you guys. But just know that we can't go to Acumatica to get any help, with a bug fix or anything like that. So there is some risk involved with being on an older version. All right, and then when we're doing an upgrade, what happens? So in the upgrade process, the first thing we do is we create a test environment on the upgraded version. We do that so that we can test functionality, reports, customizations, integration, anything like that. We want to make sure that you don't have any disruptions to your business, so we go through it methodically, carefully, and give you a chance to test this, and we all work together to say, hey, this is ready. We'll go ahead and move it to the production environment. So once we have that test environment set up, you test it, and then we move the production environment. That time frame can take a month or two, depending on your availability, how complex your upgrade is, things like that. Sometimes it's very simple, and we might do this in a week. Sometimes it's more complex and it might take a month or two. So we want to have adequate planning to make sure that we're not rushing through it and that everything works before we update your production environment. And then your responsibility in this is basically just to do, again, what I said, review and test, look at key reports, key functionality, make sure everything works. We just recently had an issue where we worked on this. A client found some notable issues in the test environment that gave us a chance to fix it. We'll get that right, and then they'll do the production upgrade and shouldn't have any disruption to their business. So it's important to follow through on that process. When we do execute the production upgrade, we will do that over a night or weekend. Again, we don't expect to have any downtime for your business, and we want to prepare adequately beforehand to ensure that happens. And then with regards to the cost of the upgrade, there's no software cost as long as you're on maintenance with Acumatica. The only cost would be the work that SWK does with you to upgrade your environment. Again, sometimes that is extremely minimal, maybe 2 or 4 hours. Sometimes it's more involved depending on what customizations, integrations, et cetera, that you have. But we'll always talk with you beforehand, give you an estimate on how much effort that is, so it's not a surprise. All right, moving on. So I've put a couple more things in here with regards to just kind of how we operate our practice. There's, we're changing just like your businesses are changing, and we want to keep you guys current on how we do things. So I just wanted to point out some operational guidelines that we use just because these topics frequently come up. First of all, we get asked a lot about what's the difference between Acumatica and SWK. Well, first, Acumatica is a software publisher. They create the base product, and they are a completely separate entity. When you pay your annual maintenance, or possibly you're on a monthly subscription, the things that you get for that subscription are product updates and releases, bug fixes, and access to their knowledge base and online documentation and online learning. Those are all very valuable services, and I encourage everyone to take advantage of it, especially the online learning. There's a ton of material out there at no cost. We've all worked with publishers in the past that charged us for this material, so this is a really nice benefit that they offer at no cost. You can also get paid support or advanced support options from Acumatica. That includes things like support cases or development support or things like that, but those are completely optional. And then when we switch to SWK, we're a professional services company, so unless otherwise stated, pretty much everything we do from an application consulting, training, business process review, development, all of those things we consider billable events, and they essentially should be, expected that way. Exceptions are that, if we're having a sales call or consulting about a new issue on, how do we maybe provide you a solution on that, that type of thing is typically not billable. But the bottom line is most of our services are, and you should expect that. All of our billings are time and materials unless otherwise specified in some sort of statement of work, and that is governed by the master services agreement that we have with each of you guys. And then as far as our SLA or response, unless you submit something late in the day, our goal is to get back to you that same day. We may not be able to resolve all the issues at that time, but we at least want to acknowledge it and let you know that we're working on it, and then resolve the issue as soon as we can thereafter. All right, and then the last slide I have is with regards to our development options. In the past, we did not have our own development department. We outsourced everything. In the last year, we have brought that in-house and put more guidelines around how we do business. So I thought this was a nice opportunity to update that. The way that we work, that our development department works, is that they scope, spec, and define requirements before they start developing. So they want to know what issue we're trying to solve, what the user interface is going to look like, what changes would be made to Acumatica, et cetera. So we'll work with you on that process to define those things before it goes into the development process at all. With regards to how we charge for development services, on anything new, we have two options. We can either provide you a price up front and then offer you a maintenance charge annually. The reason we do that is so that you don't get any unexpected charges during the upgrade. In the past, we just charged time and materials as we upgraded things, but we want to give you a more predictable solution when you're upgrading. The alternative to that, if you don't want to have a higher cost up front, we can offer you a subscription price, just like Acumatica. So you don't have to pay for it necessarily up front, but you'll have a higher subscription cost over time. So those are just two payment options that we offer. And then for clients that have older customizations that worked in our previous financial model, what we do there is we give you a one-time charge to upgrade your customizations, and then on a recurring basis, we choose one of the two other options. So you can either go to a maintenance option or a subscription option for those new things too. So that's probably the thing that we get the most questions about is customizations with regards to upgrades. And so this is how we'll be handling this on a go-forward basis. So I invite any of your questions that we can answer towards the end of the presentation, but at this point, I'll turn it over to Jeremy to look at Acumatica 2020 R1.
Great, thank you, Jeb. Well, 2020 R1 was first debuted at the Acumatica Summit in Las Vegas in January, and some of you may have been there and actually saw some of the things that were covered. I'm hoping to provide a little bit of context for things that definitely weren't covered, as well as provide you with some highlights across all functional areas. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is just a simple user interface tweak relating to dashboards. For the finance folks on the line today, there are some, it's not snazzy or sexy, but they have made some changes to the way that the bank recs work, and I think that it's a small but significant change for those of you that actually do bank reconciliations on a monthly basis or weekly basis. We'll also talk briefly about the import scenario function. I know we have many customers that load data outside of the project or export data using the import scenarios tool. And there have been some enhancements on that we'll discuss. The last two items we'll actually jump into back into PowerPoint and look at just for the purpose of displaying really the mobile functionality. The first one is relating to expense management. Acumatica continues to make the expense receipt, expense reporting functionality specifically through the mobile app more robust, and something that more customers may want to use the more functionality that's added, like OCR and form recognition. And then the last one was really a change, an additional module that was added to Acumatica for shop floor data collection. And this is, think of this like an extension from the WMS system that was released a year or two ago. And this allows for tracking manufacturing operations from a data collection device via the Acumatica mobile device. So hopefully, there may not be somebody on the line that's looking for all 5 of these things or excited about all 5, but hopefully, 2 or 3 of these will resonate with you. One of the first things that I did was I actually brought together the release notes, and I looked at the Acumatica release notes, which I'm sharing on my screen right now. One of the things that is interesting about this first release of the year is that it's packed with net new functionality. And if you can see, I know it's a little small on my screen, but the Acumatica release notes for 2020 R1, it's 253 pages. And this is where Acumatica trends version over version, which, as Jeb just reminded everyone, happens twice a year. Now, the initial, there's usually one release that adds a lot of new functionality and then another release that optimizes it. Okay, so I'd say this one was a healthy mix. I know that they have a goal of releasing new and then optimizing, but I really felt, from my perspective, that this release was complementary and did a mixture of that. Some of the new functionality we talked about, but also some really back-end processing type of enhancements that will make implementations a little smoother and just integrations and customizations as well smoother. So if you don't know where to get this, please reach out to us and we can help you get there. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the help documentation that's available in Acumatica, really without even logging in. It's a very simple URL, and you can actually get to the release notes there as well. The URL is help.acumatica.com. And the first thing that you're going to do when you get there is actually select on the version. So, if you're running 2019 R2, then you probably want to select here. But if you're looking for release notes for 2020 R1, then you can certainly select on this. And then about midway down, you'll see the release notes. So this is one place to get that in a non-PDF format. And then through the portal, you guys can log in and you can see release notes. Or again, if you'd like the PDF version and don't know how to get that, I can help you. I can provide that for you if you just send me a note. Great. Well, I looked, scoured that PDF, and I thought, based on our customer base, what's some meaningful things for them? And that's how we got to the list that you looked at. One of the first things that you may even remember to your first Acumatica demonstration was, wow, these dashboards look really cool, but they refresh every time I come to the page, which could be nice if it's information that you need to see live all the time. But to be honest, a lot of the information that we're using and what we're doing in some of these dashboards, it doesn't have to be live. So I'm in a demo database. This is not a production instance, clearly. But just from a dashboard standpoint, one of the features that's been enhanced is the dashboard caching. So here, as I hover over my dashboard tiles, like overdue payments, I can see that this tile was updated 22 minutes ago. So if I were to go to a different screen and come back, it loads really fast now because it's not trying to query the database to get all that up-to-date data, bring it back into the dashboard UI. At this point, what we have now is some settings at the dashboard widget level to be able to say, how often do we want that to refresh? And for me, as a controller in this example, some of this information doesn't need to be live. I'd prefer the speed over up-to-date data. And remember, we're talking about seconds here. We're not talking about minutes, but still, it's nice for those of you that do leverage the out-of-the-box dashboards to be able to set this and just get to where you're going a little bit faster when you hit the Acumatica logo and get back to your home screen. Now, let's say that I happen to be on this screen, but I did want to refresh. I now have this tool at the top where I can just hit refresh all. And what that will do is you'll see it turns a little bit gray. And what it's doing right now is it's actually going to go and update all of those as if I was just coming into the page. So this is not available in 2019 R1, so you're not going to be able to look at this until you're actually in Acumatica in the upgraded 2020 R1 version. But once you're there, this is definitely something I would consider doing for your dashboards, especially when it's not when live is not needed. Okay, it's just going to help you move around a little quicker through the system. So a very simple thing, but I think it'll be helpful for you. Another UI thing I just want to mention while I'm here is a button that's been added. And this is a good example of being in a workspace. And what we had to do in the past was we'd either select project quotes and it would update it within this same page that I'm in, or I would have to right click and hit open in a new tab if I want to open it in a new tab. Well, Acumatica has realized that people have multiple screens and they really like having this functionality to be able to open up multiple screens and tabs just like I do across the top. So now we can just do it with fewer clicks. When I hover over screens, I can hit this plus new, and then it would launch another tab without me having to right click and then click on the option. Okay, nice little tweak. You know, nothing crazy, but these are little usability features that make a difference in the amount of clicks you're doing in a day to get through your normal work tasks you're trying to do. Great. Well, the next thing I wanted to talk about is really the settings for bank reconciliations. And those of you that are responsible for doing bank recs in Acumatica know that there's a process to be able to do it. The first screen that you would use is called import bank transactions. That's where you grab the data provider, the CSV or the Excel, unless you're integrated, and you would bring in all the bank transactions. Step 2 would be to actually process the bank transactions. And I realize this is kind of a very nuts and bolts accounting task, but for some of our customers that are doing a daily or weekly reconciliation and you have several cash accounts that you're using, several bank accounts, you know, you historically have had to come into this screen and you'd have to update your matching settings based on your book value to your bank value, and there was no way to save that. These are global settings, but we all know that banks do, and even when if you're using this for credit card, you know, there's different settings by the bank that you may want to leverage. And that's what in 2020 R1, it was a small tweak to the bank reconciliation process, but you can see that I can have certain settings here, and then I can actually save that, and we can now save it to the specific cash account. So next time I come in, you know, we decide on what the matching settings are for auto matching transactions to your bank statement, and Acumatica will retain that by a bank account. Again, simple thing, but if that's your job and you do that all the time, this is hopefully going to remove the step of tweaking the auto matching every time you do another bank rec. Great. Another thing that we would like to talk about today is some of the integration tools in Acumatica, and there have been a lot of enhancements. I think there are actually 4 around the import and export scenarios. The release notes have all that information. But one of the things that I really am excited about with these import scenarios is the ability to be able to do parallel processing. Now, what parallel processing is going to allow you to do is use import and export scenarios in a parallel way. So for those of you that have done this before, maybe you had to break your import scenarios down into several scenarios, because the way that Acumatica works is if you had one massive file or one massive import that you were doing, that import was only using a single thread. So it could only go so fast. What parallel processing allows you to do is once you load the job and you prepare the import, Acumatica is looking at the amount of records in that import, and it's going to do a batching process, and it will actually put them into even batches and spread them over multiple threads, right? So if you think about this from a hardware perspective, we've got threads and cores. This is really inching into multi-threaded processing, which is a huge deal for a mid-market ERP to be able to do this easily. So for our customers that are loading records, again, I know we have some that do imports like this every day, a couple times a day, to get order data in or to get accounts payable bill information in. This is hopefully going to be a game changer for you, because you no longer have to put your jobs or your file and break that down. Acumatica will do that for you and spread the workload and balance it over multiple threads to allow you to get the data in faster. right? There's a little bit of a theme here throughout some of these different things we're covering today, and it is about speed, right? We all want the system to be as responsive as possible. We want our dashboards to just be there when we come back to the dashboard screen. We want to just do the bank rec without a bunch of clunky steps. And then when we need to get data in, we just want to get the data in, right? So speed and efficiency are kind of themes as far as I'm concerned for 2020 R1 in Acumatica. So I'm actually going to jump into our PowerPoint to talk about the last two items for today. And these have to do with the Acumatica mobile app. For those of you that are new or not using the Acumatica mobile app, just a reminder, this is available on iOS and Android devices. So, you know, Acumatica allows you to do the things that I'm going to show you right now from an iPhone or from an Android-based device. The app is free. The architecture of the app is important to understand. It's not a separate database. It's connected to the same SQL database that you're using in the browser. Okay, so there is no temp database on your phone. That does require you to have an internet connection. Okay. Now, you know, you're going to use your same username and password. It's a native app, just like the other apps on your phone. You can use your thumbprint to get in, and it's unlimited users, just like the rest of Acumatica. Okay, the best way to think of the app is an extension off of core Acumatica. So what I have here is just the new workflow that you can enable if you would like within 2020 R1. And if I go back a couple of years from this expense management module, this used to be a very light offering within what they called at the time the time and expense module. Since then, they've really broken time tracking and expense management out because this has become a module with a lot of functionality in it. It's still a very inexpensive module for what it does, especially if you're paying like an Expensify or a Concur and you're not leveraging the other features inside of those systems, like booking travel and some of the other benefit type things that they do regarding T&E. Acumatica, just in the past 2 years, has made a lot of enhancements to this to be able to have an integrated expense management system that is offering a lot of functionality that some of those other systems do for a very little cost. This module is integrated in with your approvals. This module is integrated in with accounts payable if you're reimbursing employees. And if you're doing corporate credit card expenses, you can also do that, clear this to a credit card liability, and then process through when you receive your credit card statement. So what's really been enhanced in 2020 R1? The big changes have been for data capture. For years now, you've been able to use the app, snap a picture of your receipt, and then enter the data in yourself. And a couple of years ago, that was pretty neat, right? The image is attached to the record in Acumatica. People can see it when they make their approvals, right? And what's changed is using this technology for form recognition. So I have an example here of the same old app you guys have seen before. And to add a new receipt, we select to take a photo. The next thing that the system will do, similar to your online banking, if you've ever used an online banking app to deposit a check, you don't actually have to hit the camera button. Once the image is comfortable, once the app is comfortable with the image and it's clear enough, it will actually just automatically kind of snap it there. And then your next step is going to be to trim it down if you'd like. Our cameras today take really heavy picture files. Acumatica allows you to trim it down to a very light file, you know, that could almost look like you just did an old school copy and it's just black and white. So the next step you can skip, but the next step that's going to happen is the recognition step. And this is the new feature that's available in 2020 R1. You can see what Acumatica is doing is it's actually looking to grab the description, the date, and the amount. And then over here on the right, you can see that Acumatica pulled the description into the actual receipt, pulled the date into the date field, and then grabbed the amount and put the amount in. Now there is another step here, because we all know that our receipts get a little dirty, a little wrinkled, or possibly there was the printer just wasn't very strong that printed the receipt and it's blurry. There is obviously a way that you can just go in and you can update these fields. So if the dollar amount or the date was off, that would be fine. The other thing that you can do very easily is map new fields. So if there's a new field within this receipt, you'd be able to map it. This is part of a larger initiative that Acumatica has right now to bring the OCR and form recognition capabilities across the platform. What I anticipate hearing later in the year as we get closer to 2020 R2 is that this type of functionality is going to be available for accounts payable out of the box, and for some of these other documents that historically we've leaned on document management systems for. We'll be able to do that out of the box in Acumatica using an integrated provider like Microsoft Azure Form Recognizer. So a little bit of that was debuted at the summit. That's not ready for prime time yet, but the app will be in the production 2020 R1. The last area that I wanted to talk about before we hand it over to Dataself today is the manufacturing capability. I wanted to stop here and just highlight that for those of you that have been using Acumatica for some time, you know that Acumatica had a strong partner in manufacturing called JOS Systems. A couple of years ago, they went into a white label arrangement, and Acumatica was sold and implemented and supported natively through Acumatica. Still with JOS doing the line share of the development. And what was announced in January at the summit was that Acumatica has now fully acquired JOS Systems. So all of the JOS employees that some of you have likely even worked with, they are now Acumatica employees. And by 2020 R2, there's an anticipation of actually having that as part of the core code base, no longer as a customization package. So really exciting stuff happening there now that Acumatica totally owns the discrete manufacturing functionality. And I think this is a really good example of that trajectory of where it's been and where it's going. We now are going to be able to, in addition to your inventory movement transactions through the light WMS provided out of the box from Acumatica, we're going to be able to do shop floor or manufacturing data collection. So what we're able to do is do our basic material, labor, move transactions through the Acumatica app. So you'll be able to use this to scan materials. There's a clock in, clock out. I know a lot of our job shop type manufacturers are really interested in a clock in, clock out, not just a labor record on a work order, and scan move transactions. So I can actually work through my operations in a production order. I can issue direct material if you're making your moves, you're back flushing, right? And all that's happened through either an iPhone or like an Android-based scanner, like a Zebra TC20, for example. Again, this is available for unlimited users. So there's no, all the good stuff about Acumatica that you like the unlimited users, that's still at play here. No separate database. It's never going to be out of sync. It's just directly into Acumatica. So I have just an example here of a production ticket. So this is a production ticket. Acumatica's form and report designer does allow you to make any field barcodable. So that's how you would get the barcodes on there. You can do that today. You don't need anything extra for that, aside from some form development. And then what you'd be able to do is, using the Acumatica mobile app, you would hit scan move if you wanted to do a move transaction, or scan materials. And then it's going to walk you through, based on the setup of your system, scan the work order, scan the operation, scan the location of the inventory you're issuing, scan the inventory itself. So there's 4 or 5 scans if you're using location tracking or not. And at the end of the day, you're going to be able to do those material transactions, do those work order transactions, increase your work in process without anyone ever having to go to a computer or even a kiosk at this point. I'd love to be able to show you more of this. I'm on limited time today, so I thought this would be a good overview. My understanding is that the module is going to be the same price, right around the same price as the warehouse management, the WMS piece, which the current pricing is $2,800 and the SaaS for that. So right around that $3,000 mark. This is a lot of bang for very little money. So I anticipate that we'll see some customers adopting this, some new customers and even some existing as they get into 2020 R1 later this year. With that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Johnny, and Johnny is, I'm going to let Johnny introduce himself. I'm just going to make one little segue here before we do that, Johnny, if you're okay with that. I showed you the dashboards earlier in Acumatica. For some customers that have no dashboards at all in their legacy system, it's really exciting to have something. But then there's folks that really want true business intelligence, right? They want to analyze data in ways that, as great as an Acumatica dashboard is, it just can't do, or it's not easy to do. So what Johnny's going to talk about today and show you guys is called Advanced Analytics for Acumatica. We're really excited to partner with them on what they're doing for BI within Acumatica. And with that, Johnny, it's all yours.
Jeremy, thank you very much. Appreciated the introduction. Can you hear me well, by the way?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Alrighty, Jeremy, that was a good segue. I've been doing advanced analytics for mid-sized companies. I've been working with this for over 15 years, and it's true. Acumatica has one of the best reporting and dashboarding capabilities among their competitors. So for those of you that are using Acumatica and are using the reporting and dashboards, many of you are probably super happy because it is, in my opinion, the best among competing ERP products. Now, there are many businesses where management and even the people who build reports and dashboards out of Acumatica are having some challenges. And some of the challenges that people come to us is, first of all, is from a user standpoint. Many business people using Acumatica, they're not necessarily tech savvy. So when they want to interact with the reports and dashboards, when they have new questions about the Acumatica data, they don't know how to answer without calling someone else, a business analyst, a consultant that knows the Acumatica GIs and reporting tool to answer the question. So the first thing that we help is providing users who don't have the bandwidth to learn how to customize reports an easy framework for them to interact with the reports and dashboards, to slice and dice them, and to even create new reports just using natural language. What is natural language query? Natural language query is like searching on the internet. You ask a question and the tool will give you an answer. Dataself does that out of Acumatica, building reports and dashboards as the answer. So I'll show you in a minute some examples also of how decision makers can get answers to their questions using natural language. Finally, we also provide the people who build reports and dashboards for others an easier platform they can more quickly address more complex reporting needs that natural language doesn't provide yet. So we help users with an easier tool to take care of their own needs by themselves, and we also help the consultants, the business analysts, to come up with reports and dashboards as needed. So let's take a look at the product, how it works. I'm going to switch now to my sandbox where I have Acumatica, and this is the natural language framework that currently I'm connected to the Acumatica sales information. We can pull data from any Acumatica data, module, and even beyond Acumatica. But the point is, suppose I'm the VP of sales or a salesperson. I can come here and just type a question like sales by salesperson in 2019. I ask a question and I press enter. And instantly, there'll be a report created with the accurate answer to that question. So here, by salesperson, I have sales in 2019. As I put the mouse over, it tells me some details about each data point. This report didn't exist. It was just using artificial intelligence in natural language to understand what I typed in coming up with an answer. What if I want to break down by month? Sure, by month, and I press enter. The tool will try to understand my question and gave me a report. So in 2019, by month, it gave me a line chart by salesperson. So it created from scratch. Many people, they love charts. And usually this tool, the first take will be a report showing a chart. But some people, they prefer numbers. How can I see this as a text table? I just write as text and press enter. And the tool will convert that report to a text table. It's that easy. It's just like searching on the internet. If the answer is out there and you articulate the question correctly, you'll get an instant, accurate report answering the question. And it's easy to export. Let's say I look at this home account, I look at this number, I want to get this data into Excel and do something else in Excel. Sure, I can click on any data point, click this View Data option, and then the View Data option allows me to see all the underlying data behind the data point. In this case, it's sales, so I can see invoices, I can see customer information, ship to product, whatever you have in your invoices goes to Excel, and then you can do whatever you want in Excel. So again, natural language is highly empowering because it allows business people who don't have time to learn tech stuff, building reports from scratch in GIs, they just have to search in Dataself and get the reports out. Let me show 2 more examples here. I'm going to I'm going to say something more elaborate. The top 10 products by sales in April 2019. It's a more elaborate question. This time I did not press enter yet. Why I did not? Well, I just want to show you that as I typed a question, there's artificial intelligence, natural language trying to understand what I ask and give me options, just like in Google, or Bing. You search, you get a list of options, and you pick one. By default, if I press enter at the end of my question, it will pick the first one and will give me the answer to that one. But sometimes the right answer is the second, the third, or the fourth. So it's just like searching the internet. You write the question, you can wait, see the options, and choose the one that makes sense. In my example, again, the first answer is the correct one I'm going to choose. So these are my top products by sales in April 2019. And in blue, they are in, meaning top 10. In gray, they show others. So the tool thought that I want to see everything and just highlight the top 10. Cool, that's fine. What if I want to see as text? Again, as text, press enter, and now it changed to a text format. And when I asked for text format, it did not show me everything. It only showed me the top 10. It's pretty nice. So it's very empowering, very easy. The last example I want to show is, let's say, gross profit by state. So when you ask geography information, the tool usually will tend to put information on maps. In this example, I have the gross profit as a colors legend, And I can see Texas is the biggest. Second is Louisiana. And maybe I want to see this by year as a map. I want to see what's changing over the years for my gross profit. And now the tool will show for every year, 2018 and 2019, two maps using the same color legend. It's that empowering. Business users, they become a lot more self-sufficient to getting answers to their questions anytime, anywhere, even using mobile devices, just by searching the internet. Now, natural language doesn't answer all the questions. Just like, searching the internet. Sometimes you gotta find the experts and ask them to solve your problems. So, and that's what we have the rest of the Dataself framework. I'm going to show you now an example of an out-of-the-box dashboard. This is available out of the box. And usually when people invest in Dataself, we also provide training to empower the more business analyst people to learn how to build reports like this, and dashboards like this. This dashboard cannot be built with natural language. You need to know more, but it's overall easier to build than the Acumatica built-in reporting capabilities. But once you build reports and dashboards in Dataself, they are extremely interactive. Let me show an example. Right now in this example, I'm looking my current year, which is 2019 for all periods. I see the total sales this year, total sales last year, and right now I have a decline of 14%. However, when I look at my chart, I can see that this year, which is a dark blue, my data is, year to date. I'm in October 2019 as my current period in my sample database. What if I want to compare year-to-date analysis? I don't want to see months 10 through 12, only through 1 through 9. Sure, I can select only the first 9 months, press apply. Now the whole dashboard changes to only show year-to-date sales through period 9, and now I'm actually growing. I can see how I'm doing from a geography standpoint. Bigger bubbles, bigger sales. Black bubbles, I'm growing. Red bubbles, I'm declining since last year to date. I can see my customers. I can see sales last year, this year, and the variance in the same information by product. Now, if I want to interact with this dashboard further, let's say I see my top customer by sales has a major decline. Why is that? Maybe I want to see all customers that are declining. How can I do that? In Acumatica, pretty much changing the question on the dashboard means call someone that knows how to change the dashboard, because you have to know how to work with GIs and the edit mode. It's not that simple for business users. With Dataself, I can come here and I can sort this column by the variance. I press once, it sorts descending. These customers are growing the most since last year to date. I click again, it's sorting ascending, meaning these customers are declining the most since last year. Let's take a look at these top 3 customers. When I select them, the whole dashboard changes to only focus on those 3 top customers by sales decline. I see the totals last year, this year, trend analysis, total variance, ship to, and product that is driving the decline. Which products are driving the biggest decline? I can sort the table at the bottom the same way and see which products are declining the most. The point is, this is highly interactive. You can see sales information, you can see financial information, you can see cash flow, receivables. Any data in Acumatica can be brought into the Dataself and allow decision makers to extensively slice and dice it without calling consultants and business analysts all the time. I could have a lot more to show, but my time also is limited. So let's go back to my PowerPoint to wrap it up. What we're offering to you today exclusively is a 14-day free trial of Advanced Analytics. It takes 15 minutes to deploy, and the only thing you need to know to deploy Dataself is creating a user, Acumatica user for Dataself, and being able to upload generic inquiries to your Acumatica. Those are the two technical components, but it takes 15 minutes, the overall process. If you decide to keep it after the trial, the starting price is $299 per month. So it's very affordable. And if you want to get it going, you just have to give it a shot. You go to our website, dataself.com, put a /SWK. Let me just show very quickly what to do. You go to dataself.com and put /SWK. You're going to go to a page that has the deployment form. If you scroll down, you can see some more information, how the pricing works in case you decide to move forward, some sample dashboards, and other information. So feel free to give it a shot. And with that, I pass back to SWK.
Thank you so much, Johnny. And now I'd love to invite Jolene on the line. Jolene, do we have any questions?
Hi, John. Yes, we do. We have a few that have come through so far. Just a reminder for everyone on the call, if you have any questions, please do enter them into the question section of your GoToWebinar. But in the meantime, we have a few that came through during the presentation. So the first is, do the Acumatica upgrades consider functionality with Chrome and with Mac? For example, I cannot utilize the report designer because it does not work with Mac.
I can answer that. So, you know, when for most folks, the machine that you're using, if it's an iPad, if it's a Mac with Safari, or a PC with Microsoft Edge, doesn't matter. That's for most, I say most folks because most people are going to the browser and they're accessing the front-end application. If you're actually looking to launch the form and report designer, that is something that's a local application, similar to Crystal Reports, if some of you have used that before. And that requires, there's an executable that has to run on a PC. As far as I know, I don't know of any plans to move that to a Mac-based application. And the biggest reason is just because Acumatica is built on a Microsoft technology stack. So again, for 99% of users, that's not an issue. But if you're a sysadmin that's looking to launch the report designer, or if you're going into RDP to get into your private cloud environment, you know, that would be an obstacle. You know, we have a solution for that. We have a hosting team. We can set up a VM for you, and you could just log into the VM and launch the report designer. So if that's something that you want to look into, please reach out, or, you know, ask for more information in the chat, and we can connect you with the right people on our end.
Perfect. And then the next question we have is, where do I get the PDF on the updates? Who would they reach out to?
So they can reach out to me or Jean, and we'll make sure that we get that to you. Really, any.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Or you know, they can look on the help.acumatica. I believe that there is a PDF available from your portal that you can log into, but you know, to be honest, I wouldn't know where to tell you within that version of the navigation to find it.
Perfect. And then the next question we have is the zonal OCR API available to other functions in the application? Specifically, where can I find API documentation for the image recognition service?
I don't believe that has been released just yet. The Azure Form Recognizer functionality is going to be something that's happening later this year. They've started that with the form recognition within the expense receipts, but based on what I've seen, I don't know that I can access that via the APIs just yet. So I think we're probably 6 months out from doing that.
Perfect. And then we have a question that says, I missed the first part of the webinar. Can I get a recorded copy? Yes, a link to the recorded webinar will be sent out by end of day tomorrow. And I think that's all the questions I have on my end. Thank you so much, team, for your informative presentation and for the demo you gave with Dataself. Have a wonderful rest of your day.